Welcome to this podcast is Uncalled For.
Well, the name of this podcast is Stuff Uncalled For?
This podcast is uncalled for.
Podcast, all right. Well,
What's uncalled for about it?
What we doing at Tijuana?
And he's like, what did you just say?
It's a bit of a slap in the face and an insult.
And then look, thank you back home.
Oh, that's going to be great for the football chant.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what's that character from Guardians of the Galaxy who takes everything literally?
Because it always happens. It always happens.
That is uncalled for, Michael.
And now, your host for this podcast, Mike Chernevsky.
All right, buddy, welcome to the podcast. And let's welcome my good friend and the winner of the 2022 Bracket Challenge, Justin Pemberton, to the podcast.
Michael, thank you very much, man. It's an honor to be on your podcast. And I'll tell you this, I'm still pretty shocked that I'm the winner still because I didn't really expect to be able to at least get one pick right for the Final Four. When you told me I was a winner, I was pretty stunned, honestly.
Yeah. And for context for our listening audience, Justin had Duke in the Final Four.
Yes.
No one else in the pool, not even me, did. I was kind of tortured because I liked what Gonzaga was doing, but because I just couldn't bring myself to pick the Dukies to get to the Final Four. So
I did multiple brackets in different areas, and I want to be different with all my picks. I didn't want to be the same, so I didn't have Duke in the Final Four and others.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I did in one other. I can't remember, but I think in your group that was the only one I had Duke in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I had KU in the Final Four and won. I didn't have them win at all. I probably should have. But considering what they were kind of going through sometimes this year where they were kind of inconsistent, I kind of thought they were going to lose not early, but maybe in the Sweet 16, Elite 8,
mm-hmm.
or in this case in the national semifinal. But obviously I was proven wrong. And of course, as we know, KU is the national champion.
Yeah. Pains me to even think about that.
I can tell you you're really happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, honestly, as being a K-State fan,
mm-hmm.
it does pain me to see KU have more success. But being a Big 12 guy, I was rooting for KU. Carolina, they're okay, but they're a blue blood. They're kind of one of those that kind of gets away with certain things. And I wasn't going to root for them. Obviously, Kentucky, if they were going to go pretty far, I was not going to root for them.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand Kentucky for the life of me. Duke. I only had Duke in the Final Four because of the whole Coach K thing. I thought it was all just going to ride through for him.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, I don't know, you got to kind of be on alert in those situations. You can't just not go, well, I'm going to have Duke, bounce down in the second round. No, things like this, I think, kind of get your attention. So you kind of have to, make sure you have Duke in the Final Four. So,
yeah. And a heck of a career, too, for Coach Krzyzewski. So, yeah.
So have you heard that rumor that they lost a certain assistant coach and a former Duke star said this will be the reason that Coach K may come back?
I did hear that rumor, but the man's been coaching quite a long time. I mean, he's in his 70s or 80s, I want to say.
He's 75. He coached the Duke for 42 years.
Mm-hmm.
You add the 3 or 4 years he was coaching at West Point.
Yep.
After he played at West Point under Bob Knight.
Yep.
So long time.
Yeah, very long time. So I think he's earned the right to retire at this
Mhm.
point. So,
Absolutely.
and for our audience, if you can tell, Justin's a big sports guy. We
That's right.
first met at JUCO, taking media classes together, and we worked together. One of our first projects, of course, was interviewing the then head coach at Blue Valley High School, which is your alma mater.
Yes.
And that was a fun project.
I remember that very well. I was taking a broadcast performance with Molly Baumgardner, which I don't believe she's there anymore because she
is currently in the Kansas Senate.
Yes. And you were taking a broadcast class with Joel Petrie.
That's correct. That's
very good man. I took his class later on, and I really enjoyed the experience. I am not the best. If you're going to ask me to go out and shoot something, you better have low expectations of having anything done correctly. I went out and I covered a basketball. I didn't really cover it, but I went out there to like just get some kind of video of a basketball game at JUCO. Boy, it was a disaster. I tried getting the stupid camera on the tripod, and I'm just like, screw it. I'm just gonna shoot it by hand, and it was pretty awful. I had other experience of shooting video in high school, kind of same thing. I went to cover a Blue Valley men's basketball game. Quality, it was kind of crooked. I just was not very good at that stuff, but I do remember us covering or doing that project with the late Eric Driscoll, and gosh, let me tell you, what a man he was. It's now been 5 years since he passed away from that unfortunate, tragic brain aneurysm that he unfortunately suffered at a coach's speaking deal at, I believe, A10 Zone, which was up at Corbin Park on 135th. He was talking, and then all of a sudden he just collapsed, and it was never the same. And that was one of the roughest weeks in my life, to see that man leave this earth. And he was a great teacher, great person, and if you had a chance to talk to him, you would have enjoyed him.
Absolutely. And my brief experience with, I thought he was a good man, and clearly knew what he was talking about in terms of football.
Absolutely, he's the GOAT of high school coaches in my mind. I mean, you may have a different opinion, if
I recently got
around this area.
I recently got into charity walks for lung cancer because of my football coach, Steve Shelton, who is currently, I think he's the superintendent now in the Raytown School District, but he was my coach at Cheyenne Mission West back in the day, and he had been fighting lung cancer, and survived, and started putting together teams to do the cancer walk. So I did the 1 year, and I've done it the last couple of years as well, raising money for lung cancer awareness, and all because of Coach.
You said he did survive from the cancer?
He's still alive. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So I noticed in your background, you got
they have everything. Yeah.
So Expos, box score. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's a chess box score, by the way.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I also have a old school Houston Astro right there, right behind me. So,
we need the Expos back, man. I miss those old Expos.
That was
bad.
That was the sweetest logo, I think, in baseball history. The Montreal M and stuff. But yeah, for those too young to remember, they they had the best record in baseball at the time of the strike in 1994. Talking about local connections.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, talking about local connections. Don Fear was the head of the baseball players union at that time. He's a graduate of East and UMKC, so he's a fellow. I actually got to meet him once and worked briefly with his son David, who went down the acting path and is a pretty good actor. So yeah, Montreal had the best record in baseball at the time, and then after the strike, they let's just say there was a talk of possibly folding the team altogether, but fortunately they were saved. They just moved to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe the ex-Marlins owner, Jeff Lurie, owned them and pretty much had a fire
ran
sale.
them into the ground and then ran them into the ground and sold
then
the
Major League Baseball
team. Sold the team to Major League Baseball so he could buy the Marlins. And the Marlins at the time were owned by John Henry, who now, of course, famously owns the Red Sox.
Interesting. I did not know that. Then, of course, if you talk about around these parts, around that time in '94, the Royals were kind of getting red hot under, I believe, then manager Hal McRae. And they were right there in the thick of the wild card race. And that's one of those years where you just look back and go, what could have been? And talking about that Montreal Expos team, that team was talented. Moises Alou was on that team. I believe Pedro was still there. Pedro Martinez.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of who others that were on there. You may kind of help me if you remember.
Whoever. Oh, that was that long ago. I'm going to have to look that
Larry
up.
Walker,
94 Montreal.
Maybe a Larry Walker, who is a Canadian born. Maybe. I think he was on there too. But regardless, that was a really talented team. I think they were like 30 some games above 500, and they probably could have won it all. And they should have, and it should have saved Montreal. They should have got a new stadium instead of playing that dump Olympic Stadium, which when you look at it then and even now, I think it's still up. I think
it is still up. It still exists. Architecturally, I think it's one of the coolest stadiums ever. But in terms of quality and everything, that dome, which is supposed to retract, never quite worked. So it's just stuck in place. And some other stuff, that was, as the name implies, that was built for the Olympics, and they still use it to this day for other events, just not necessarily baseball.
Well, actually, they have. I think the Blue Jays, play a certain exhibition game once a year. There, and they've had some actually pretty good turnouts in those games, I think, from what I remember. But hopefully at some point, if it's either expansion team or maybe, as it's been talked about, the Rays, if they would move to Montreal. And if you do, just go to Montreal, please. Don't do this back and forth crap that they were going to try to do, where they play half in Tampa and half in Montreal. I mean, who wants to see that? I mean, it's awful.
And it rarely works. Again, using the Expos as their last couple of years, they played games in Puerto Rico.
Well, that's right, they did.
And you see there are a couple of examples of this in the NBA when they were still the Hornets, the New Orleans Hornets during Katrina. They split time between New Orleans and Oklahoma City. And and there's a local example too, when we still had the Kings up here. They split time between KC and Omaha.
That's right.
Yeah. And it rarely works trying to play between two cities. Somehow Green Bay managed to do it for a number of years before.
Playing in old Milwaukee County Stadium.
Yep. And yeah, I remember the last game I went to before that strike in '94. It was at the Astrodome.
The old Astrodome.
The old Astrodome, which itself is still standing, actually.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's the Astros. They're playing Colorado, and this is an Astros team with a very young Jeff Bagwell and a very young Craig Biggio playing catcher.
That's right.
Yep.
For those who don't know, because I know most people that think of Craig Biggio, you think of him being the second baseman of the Astros, but yes, he played catcher when he first came up.
That's right.
And speaking of the Rockies, did you see that Todd Helton is now special assistant to the general manager for the Rockies?
No, I did not hear that. But nowadays, when I think Colorado Rockies, I think of Matt Holliday not touching home plate.
I think of Nolan Arenado and Troy Tulowitzki, but no, I think of Todd Helton first. He is Mr. Rocky, and he's the first ever to have his number retired by the franchise.
Kind of like the Rockies' version of George Brett.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, one of the things we had been talking about, going to switch sports here. One of the things we had been talking about on in our messenger threads was the whole LA debacle.
Yeah, that's one of the big messes in sports history, if you ask me. It should have never happened. St. Louis had a perfect plan. I remember seeing images of the potential stadium. Excuse me, of the potential stadium in St. Louis. It was beautiful. It was magnificent.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't understand. And the same thing can be said for cities like San Diego and Oakland, especially Oakland. I mean, look at the rumors of the A's, going to Las Vegas potentially. I mean,
well, the Raiders are already there. There's talk of the A's joining them. Yeah.
I don't know how you can just let your team slip away from your fingers like that. I mean, that's pure laziness, if you ask me. I think Oakland deserves what they get. Same with San Diego.
Yeah.
Because the Chargers should still be. Now, I know Dean Spanos is not one of the most liked owners in all of the NFL, along with many others. Let's don't get started with other owners, like one Stan Kroenke.
Yeah.
Which I know you have a pure dislike for him. I do too, but just because I respect St. Louis. I mean, I'm a Chiefs fan. Just for those that don't know me, I'm a Chiefs diehard fan. But that did not mean I did not have respect for the Rams, because I did. Because I absolutely loved the greatest show on turf. Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt,
Marshall Faulk, Orlando Pace.
Absolutely.
Dick Vermeil getting in Canton this year.
Vermeil, Mike Martz. Yes, and Carl Pearson is going to be the speaker for Dick Vermeil when he goes up there to Canton. So that's going to be real. I'd rather have someone else doing it, because I despise Carl Pearson. I thought he was good at first when he got there, along with Marty Schottenheimer, but things fell apart. And that's why the Chiefs are probably among the top teams as far as arrest since 2000, because it got pretty nuts towards the end of Carl's tenure. That most of that goes back to the 90s. It should go back to 98, 99. If it goes back that far, Chiefs are probably number 2 in that category, because Van Morris, Tamarick Van, I know we're getting onto a tangent here, off topic, but no, I had respect for St. Louis, and I still do. I mean, I've said so many times, there are people, when it comes to baseball, if the Royals didn't exist, I'd be a Cardinals fan, very quickly, because I respect that franchise totally.
Yeah.
Their history is among the richest that you'll ever find in the history of the game of baseball. But I feel so bad for you because you were a Rams fan, but now you're a Cardinals fan.
Yeah.
Which hopefully things will work out there. I don't know what's going to happen with Murray and everybody down there in the desert. They're going to be hosting the Super Bowl, so maybe you may have a little luck this year. Do you think you're going to have a third straight team, play in their home stadium in the Super Bowl?
We'll see what happens. I do have some conspiracy theories about the most recent Super Bowl.
Yes,
Arizona was actually leading NFC West until up until that lawsuit settled, and then all of a sudden they start getting bad, and Stan's team starts getting good, and then they meet in the playoffs and all that. I am thoroughly convinced that the NFL and the refs fixed everything for that specific results.
They did,
because they owed St. Louis $790 million.
Well, you could tell early on in the game there was nothing being called. Now that I go back to one play that should have been called but wasn't, that pass interference. I believe when was it when the Bengals were on offense and there was a complete and obvious offensive pass interference that was not called. But it wasn't until late in the game when, quote, the Rams had the ball deep down in Bengals territory, all of a sudden calls started happening. I wonder why.
Yeah.
It was so obvious.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy theory.
That pass interference on that linebacker for the Bengals was just absolute BS. And it snowballed from there. And I know the Bengals didn't do themselves any favors by not having a great O-line. Burrow got beat up in that game, which, okay. And give Rams credit. They have a good defense and Donald and everybody. But no, that game was completely on the refs, just like a lot of the NCAA tournament games were on the refs too. That was by far one of the worst officiated, there we go, tournaments of all time. Just pretty much every game was awful. But going back to what we're talking about, I feel bad for everyone in St. Louis. They deserve better. They deserve a team. So that brings to the question I'm going to ask you: do you think St. Louis ever gets a team? Now I know we've talked about with the XFL getting
XFL, of course, a different kettle of fish. So
back, but but do you see any potential of the NFL coming back to St. Louis? If you want my opinion, I don't, just because of the whole mess. I think everyone's just so far apart on that, and I just don't think it's going to happen. But do I want to? Yes, absolutely.
My official answer on this is I think I think $790 million is still on the low side. They should have gone for minimum $1 billion. They should have requested for the next time the NFL expands, guarantee that St. Louis gets one of the expansion teams. There's so much that could have been that could have come out of that, but obviously didn't. If you ask me, bare minimum, we're looking at 20 years before St. Louis enters the NFL conversation again. A few people have to be gone for that town, and specifically Roger Goodell, who I know you don't have much love for. Certain owners, don't mention Stan Kroenke and Jerry Jones.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Which brings other interesting points that I haven't talked about on this podcast, but now's a good time to do so. Before that settlement, there was a owners meeting, the first time in person since this whole pandemic thing started. And Stan was asked to leave the room because they were going to talk about the case. And it was John Mara, who was on that LA committee, New York Giants owner, said, hey, if Stan did not agree to indemnify the entire league, the Rams would not have moved. And only one person in that entire room stuck by Stan during this whole meeting, and that was, go figure, Jerry Jones. So,
Yep, unfortunately.
mm-hmm. And from what we do know from the case, Jerry Jones was definitely Stan's biggest cheerleader in that whole thing.
And unfortunately, one of the voters to vote against keeping the Rams in St. Louis, yes, was unfortunately the Chiefs owner, Clark Hunt. That's for one purpose. That was so the Chiefs can be the sole team in Missouri, which, I mean, look, I understand, but like I told you, man, I got respect for St. Louis, and it would have been great to have kept the Governor's Cup game, either in the preseason or, once in a while in the regular season, have a game between the Chiefs and Rams, either in St. Louis or in Kansas City. I miss that. And it was pretty cool, even back in the day, like we talked about earlier, when Kurt Warner and company were, thriving, and the Chiefs, I think it was 2000, the Chiefs and Rams played at Arrowhead, and the Chiefs, they exploded on St. Louis, like 48-30 or some crazy.
I've been to a couple of those games. It was not fun.
No. And I remember 2006, I think it was, in the preseason, Bernard Pollard, Bone Crusher, who I actually got to meet one year when I was summer football workouts at Blue Valley. And of course, he's obviously known for ending Tom Brady's season. Yay. I feel so proud to this day that I know the guy that knocked out Brady for a whole season in 2008, excuse me. But he came to our workouts anytime we were on the field conditioning and doing all kinds of stuff. And it was really cool to have a Chiefs player be with us. And he wasn't the only guy. I think Greg Wesley, one time showed up, the former Chiefs safety. I was talking about, I was trying to talk about when the Rams and Chiefs were at Arrowhead for one preseason game one year. And I remember Bernard Pollard making one hit so hard, the ball popped up in the air for a long time. I just remember he laid the wood so hard on some Rams receiver. And that's probably the lasting memory I probably have of watching the Rams and Chiefs. But I think the last time they faced each other was 2010 in St. Louis.
I was at that game.
You were at that game?
Yep.
And that was a pretty fluky year, if you ask me, from the Chiefs. I mean, Dwayne Bowe, 15 receiving touchdowns in a season. I mean, are you kidding me? That was so unheard of. And that was my very first year doing fantasy football. And I picked him up late in the year, and along with Michael Vick, his comeback player of the year, and Arian Foster. Do you remember Arian Foster, the running back for the Texans?
Yeah.
He was undrafted out of Tennessee, and he was undrafted out of any of us in my league as well. And it wasn't until week 6 when I picked him up, and go figure, I go all the way to the championship round, and I lose to my cousin, who had Aaron Rodgers and Greg Jennings, who, of course, the Packers went on to win it all that year. Go figure.
Yeah.
So, but crazy times, and I hope someday the Rams, or not, well, if the Rams came back, it'd be a miracle. But I was going to say, hopefully St. Louis as a city will get an NFL team back. But I think first things first, I think it'd be great if the XFL would consider bringing back the Battlehawks, because
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that was a lot of fun. I know it was probably I think it was just one home game they played.
Yeah, they played one, maybe two home games, and they led the XFL in attendance. Yeah.
Kind of too bad the USFL didn't consider, adding St. Louis. I know they were trying to get some of the original teams back, which games, by the way, start this weekend in the USFL. So I'm actually kind of excited to see that. I'm probably going to root for the Houston Gamblers.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, those teams that are coming back, I'm thinking probably the New Orleans team, the Breakers, just because the cool helmet and everything.
The Philadelphia Stars.
And interestingly enough, whenever you see old advertisements, they use old XFL. No, not XFL, USFL photos, and it's usually the Breakers at USC on the helmet with the little wave thing. And
Houston Gamblers, that's where Jim Kelly played.
Jim
Kelly. Bills. I know there's not as many teams this time around. I think it's just 8 teams, 2 divisions, 4 teams in each division. I don't know how many teams there were back then. I'm guessing probably around like 16.
Maybe.
Is that correct at all? But of course, Donald Trump was part of that mess, and
New Jersey Generals.
No shocker. And that's one of the teams too that's back as well, the Generals.
Yep. So it'll be fun to see what happens with the XFL and this new USFL, and Michigan Panthers being coached by one Jeff Fisher. So
I wonder if he. I wonder if
7-9 BS, and likely the team will be moved.
I wonder if he still believes in aliens. Or no, not aliens. It was what was that whole thing in Hard Knocks?
Which of course I didn't watch, but I did hear about it. It was mermaids, I think.
Mermaids, that's it. Yes, mermaids. I knew it was something stupid because obviously that whole thing was a mess. Did you see that? I'm trying to remember who is going to be on Hard Knocks this year again. Was it Detroit?
Maybe.
Detroit. I think it's someone that's been on there before, and it's going to pretty much be a disaster, like it usually is. I mean, if it's the Cowboys, or it's Detroit, or it's in this case the Rams. One year the Chiefs were actually on there in 2007 when Herm Edwards was head coach, which was quite entertaining. I didn't watch it, but I've seen highlights of the late Gunther Cunningham when he was mic'd up. Boy, you want entertainment, listen to that guy, because almost every word's a curse word that he's saying, and it is quite entertaining because, hey, numb, let's go. Gunther.
Chiefs and mic'd up coaches saying interesting things kind of go together, because I'm thinking Marv Levy when he was the coach. The over-officious jerk thing. Done his play. No, I went to college with that official, and then calls out to the guy.
Then of course the first ever to be mic'd up for the Chiefs, Hank Stram, in Super Bowl 4.
Yeah, he had some
famous.
Yeah, he had some interesting things to say from time to time too. Was it matriculate down the field was his thing? Or?
Yep. Good old 65 toss power trap against those Minnesota Vikings, which I'm always curious about them. Are they ever going to break through, the Vikings, or are they just simply cursed?
I think they and
I think they are. I mean,
absolutely is cursed. I think
I do too.
Yeah. Minnesota. You can make a case that they'd be cursed. I mean, 4 Super Bowl appearances, all them losses.
And then there's the whole thing with Detroit, Bobby Lane.
Yeah.
This franchise will never win because they trade me away.
Mm-hmm.
I believe to Pittsburgh. I believe.
Yes, to Pittsburgh. Interestingly enough, my uncle Lane was named after Bobby Lane.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Not bad because he was a pretty darn good player himself.
Oh yeah, Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
And
out of the University of Texas.
Yeah.
Which for a long time I had no idea that he went there, but like I found out maybe a year or two ago, and I don't know, I was kind of stunned because when I think of quarterbacks from the University of Texas, I think of Vince Young. I mean, that's one guy that really pops in your mind. I know they had Chris Sims, they had Cole McCoy, in recent years. Nothing ever since Cole McCoy.
Right.
They've been quite down in that category, which I hope that continues going into the SEC. Good luck with that, Texas. You're gonna need that. That's another stupid topic too. Is Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC?
Yeah.
I mean, what the heck? I mean, I'm glad being a Big 12 guy that Texas is leaving. Oklahoma, which I've had more respect for, I don't understand why you want to follow the coattails of Texas to the most powerful league in all of collegiate sports.
Right.
Why?
Who knows? Who knows? When's that move happening again?
It's supposed to happen around 2024.
So we got another couple of years then, huh?
2024, 2025 season, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's when it's supposed to happen. But there's been rumors they could leave sooner than that. And of course, the Big 12 is adding BYU, Houston, Central Florida, and Cincinnati, which that ought to be interesting. I mean, I'm excited about BYU just because they're always kind of respectable and they're sports and they have a good, very solid TV follower on their parts. And I know Cincinnati's been pretty solid. They were very good this year in football. Of course, no one expected them to even make it out of the first round of that playoff against Alabama, which they didn't. I was pulling for that to happen, but of course, Alabama is just Alabama. So go figure. Right. Central Florida, I'm not really sure about them. I know they had their magical run a few years ago under Scott Frost, who is now, of course, the head coach at Nebraska. I don't know why he's there. I mean, I know he's a fan favorite because he played there, but look what's happened. And Nebraska is just pretty much, a dump in football. I think that's pretty much a one-man coach program. I know Bob Devaney before Tom Osborne was pretty successful, but when you think Nebraska, you think Tom Osborne. So I just don't ever see Nebraska being good again in football. If they are, cool, prove me wrong, but that's how I feel about that. But Central Florida, it's kind of West Virginia. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense geographically.
No,
that's why I kind of like the Cincinnati pickup for you guys. As Cincinnati's pretty closer to West Virginia than any other school in the Big 12. And BYU, that's an interesting one because you don't have just that part of Utah. You have the entire LDS Church backing you up there. So,
of course, there's still talk about potential expansion to add more, which I don't really see why that's even possible. I don't know why you would do that. I mean, just go back to 12 teams because the name is Big 12 for a reason. I mean, just stick with 12 teams.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be 14 for a couple of years with OU and Texas still in place, but when they leave, it'll go back to being 12. And there might be divisions, I think, in football, which I hope so. I mean, I used to love the North and South divisions when it was, when it was originally Missouri, Colorado, Iowa State, K-State, KU in the North. I said Colorado. And then Nebraska, obviously. South was Baylor, Tech, Texas, A&M, Oklahoma State. I mean, that was so cool. And there might be divisions maybe in basketball. I actually, no, that's probably just football. I don't know why there would be in basketball, because there never was in the first place a long time ago. But well, that should be really interesting to see what happens with the Big 12. And of course, Bob Boulsby stepping down, which I'm kind of happy about, because I didn't really think the guy was very good at his job, to be fair and honest. I know he managed to keep things together, but he's kind of responsible for it kind of going downhill a little bit too in recent years. He could have done something to keep OU and Texas in this conference, or he probably should have just kicked out Texas a long time ago and could have kept Missouri or Colorado or Nebraska in this league. I would have loved to have seen Colorado and Nebraska stay in there. Missouri, good riddance. I mean, you betrayed us. You lied. Mike Alden, the ex-AD, lied about everything. And then A&M, as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad they're gone, because they beat my Wildcats in the 98 Big 12 championship game, played in the Edward Jones Dome. That's the main reason why I can't stand A&M. Plus, they think they're better than everybody else. They think they're better than Texas, which they've never proven to be. Even when Johnny Football was there, Johnny Manziel, for those that don't know the nickname Johnny Football. But still, Big 12 should be really interesting going forward. Of course, basketball-wise, I think it's going to get pretty nuts. I think with KU, riding on the national championship. My Wildcats with a new head coach and potential upside there with Jerome Tane, the ex-Baylor assistant. Baylor, who knows if they remain a power, with him being gone out of Scott Drew's coaching staff. And Iowa State, I mean, who knows with their new coach, if they can, start being successful again like they were under Fred Hoiberg, the mayor, who should still be there. I mean, I don't know why you're coaching at Nebraska. Why? That's a mess.
Yeah. When KU won, I was hearing something they were misappropriated as Kansas City Jayhawks. First of all,
that was done on purpose.
Those who don't know their basic geometry, Lawrence, 40 minutes away from KC, technically not considered part of the KC area. And two, when you talk about college sports, when you say Kansas City, there's one school that comes to mind, the University of Missouri at Kansas City. And we ain't Jayhawks, we are Roos. So,
which that kind of now comes to my mind now, thinking about UMKC. Will they ever reach the heights of getting to the tournament at all?
Well, they are in one of those tournaments. They're in one of those conferences, the Summit League, that you have to win your conference tournament to get in. You have to. They just have not been able to do it. I hope it happens in my lifetime.
So, if I'm correct, didn't that used to be called the Mid-Con?
Yeah, it was called the Mid-Continents when I was there. And shortly after I graduated, it became the Summit League. And
then they bolted out for
interesting fact, you mentioned Scott Drew. The first UMKC game I ever attended there as my first semester there, they're playing at Hale Arena, right there next to Kemper, and they were playing Valparaiso.
Yep.
Yeah, we used to be. They used to be in our conference, Valpo. So.
Now Valpo is in the Missouri Valley, which I've also noticed that Murray State is going to be moving to the Missouri Valley, which, again, that's one of those where it doesn't make sense traveling wise for certain schools. I mean, you're traveling all the way to Kentucky.
It's Western Kentucky, so it's not too far removed from where we think of the Missouri Valley. So.
Yeah, they're going to move in there, I think, July 1st. this summer. So that'll be interesting. And of course, Steve Prohm is now back coaching Murray State after I think a year or two off. Well, actually a year off coaching after getting fired from Iowa State after their worst year in program history, which I believe was 2-22.
Wow.
Pretty awful.
Yeah.
Isn't that how funny that Iowa State just goes all the way into the Sweet 16 a year later? But of course, that's all done by the transfer portal.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, by the way, the transfer portal? Do you like that?
I know practically nothing about it. So educate me.
Well, think of it like free agency in pro sports. That's kind of what it is.
Okay. So the concept is free agency, but among D1 college students.
And maybe Division II. I'm not sure, but mostly Division I. Yeah, but it's basically collegiate sports copying off of pro sports, which honestly, you shouldn't be doing that because you are your own brand. Pro sports is their own. Just stay separate. Don't copy off of each other. Come on. Now, unless you're talking about overtime rules,
right?
NFL, you need to copy off the college because the college football rules are excellent. The NFL rules continue to be bogus. I don't know if you've seen the new overtime rules in the NFL, how they've kind of modified the rules. They're still bad. I mean, I'd still rather be playing multiple overtimes if it was the case. And then like in the new college football rules, after the first two overtimes, it would just come down to converting 2-point conversions, which is so much fun. I think it was Illinois and Penn State this past year that went into 9 overtimes.
Wow.
It had never happened before in the history of FBS football. Like only 4 times, I think, had a game ever gone to 7 overtimes, but never past 7 until then.
Wow.
So if I was the NFL, I know they're not going to do it. So I'm wasting my breath.
Yeah, but it's good to get it out there. Get the thoughts out there in the ether and everything. So
I mean, at least they're now going to give both teams a shot and no one's going to be left out, which, okay, that's better, but come on. These are grown professional guys. They train to play long battles. I mean, if you got to play 4 overtimes, so what? It used to be that way. I mean, I don't know why it's just now 1 overtime and it's like, what, 10 minutes long? And that's all there is? I mean, that's bogus. It's grown man football.
Yeah.
Play more. I want more football.
Yeah.
As a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be good as a fan, but of course, I think you played it sounds like you've played the sports, and I certainly have. It might be great for the fans, but it's torture on the athletes. You know, it is a very physically demanding game.
It is, and I have plenty of experience of knowing what it's like of being hurt. I tore my ACL my junior year playing JV football. Very last game of the year. We're playing Olathe South. Olathe South, I believe. It was at
Hawks
home.
Or Falcons.
I remember the play exactly. They did a toss sweep to the left side. I'm trying to get to the pursuit to the ball. Then one of their linemen tries to come up and block me, and I remember stopping in my tracks. And of course, our field was not natural grass, so there's a red flag there. If it's not natural grass, you're in trouble.
Right.
I got my foot caught in a very awkward position. Pop, snap, done. And I was so furious because we had a rotation of linemen going in for that game, and we were just kind of rotating guys. So I'd be in there for a series or 2, and then I come out and someone else would come in. And then later on I had my chance, which, okay, second half is starting and I go in. and then just a few plays later, I'm done. Then my teammate, one of my teammates did the same thing, same knee in the same game. So you got two guys on the bench with broken knees, and it was an awful ending to my career playing football. I started in middle school in 8th grade when I was going to Blue Valley Middle, which their mascot is Cardinals, and at the time they had the original. The same kind of original Cardinal logo, by the way, of the Arizona Cardinals. Before, of course, the Cardinals kind of screwed that up. I'm not a huge fan of the current Cardinals logo. I prefer more of the original Phoenix Cardinals logo,
which they brought over from St. Louis.
That we came to know with guys like Jake Plummer wearing the Cardinals uniform, Dan Deerdorf, Emmitt Smith, of all people. Which that's still hard to believe. Even Larry Fitzgerald wore that bird before they changed it up.
Aeneas Williams and Larry Sanders also come to mind for me. So.
I'm trying to think of other guys that may have worn that uniform or that bird before they changed it up. But that's when I started, and I absolutely loved football. I played defensive tackle. I was usually a 3 or the shade, so not totally head center up on the center, but either on the right side or left side of the center. Now there was a game or two where I did play straight up on the center's nose, and I actually played D end for one play. Coach had me do that, and that was actually kind of fun. And I kind of wish, looking back, I would have tried out playing D end, because I think I had the quickness and the speed to be able to, get around the corner.
Right.
Now, I'm not trying to compare myself to Derek Thomas. I didn't have that kind of quickness. Or no Jared Allen and, others, that played in the NFL. But I would have loved to have seen myself play DN, but I was a nose tackle.
Yeah.
What position did you play?
I was a wide receiver and defensive back.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
And my football injury happened in practice, so my left knee is all messed up because of tackling drills in practice. So it's still to this day. Yeah. So.
Did you have ACL tear?
No, I'm not sure what happened. No ligaments got torn or anything, but still.
Huh.
Yeah. And I didn't start playing until my junior year. So. And yeah, the 2 years in high school before that, I ran cross country. So that's a heck of a transition, going from 2 years running cross country to 2 years playing football. And I did track all 4 years too. So.
Yeah. So I could have honestly, I could have come back from my last year of football, and I remember one day in science class, I had Mr. Eric Driscoll as a teacher as well at Blue Valley, and there was one day I had to go up to him at his desk and talk to him. I didn't want to, but I knew I had to, because I had so much fear in me that I was going to tear my knee up again, or I was going to do the other one if I went back and played. And I told him, I said, Coach, I can't do this no more. I gotta quit, because I have too much fear of re-injuring my knee or blowing my other one out. And I didn't want to face that kind of fear. But being the person that he was, he offered me the opportunity to be a manager, and I managed to stay on the team, and I got a state ring. So it was a pretty sweet deal. Yeah, I would have loved to have been suited up and been out there with my buddies, my brothers and teammates, and hoist that state championship trophy up with them. But it was a pretty sweet ride to be able to still be on the team, be with them at practice every day, go to games, and set things up and just be part of the experience. I wouldn't have it in any other way. Looking back, it was a cool ride.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. That's. I think that's a thing. The high school coaches teach classes during the day. I know Coach Shelton, who I mentioned earlier, he was teaching biology when he was teaching there. And another teacher who was also a coach that I had, who somewhat became famous in recent years, because there's a certain fictional coach that was heavily based on him. I'm of course talking about Donnie Campbell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He coached at Blue Valley West.
Mm-hmm.
Coached the men's basketball team, I believe, when I was still at Blue Valley. And as I told you earlier, when I was, in broadcast class in high school, I went to cover a game, and it was there actually, and I believe he was still the coach there.
Yeah.
So yep, I'm fully aware of that name around these parts, Donnie Campbell.
Yeah, he taught geometry at West when I was there. In fact, that was my freshman year when I had him as a geometry teacher, and he was coaching basketball. And on that basketball team that year was one Jason Sudeikis. So,
oh wow!
Yeah,
how about that?
Yeah. Well, of course, the dynamics of freshmen don't just really hang out with seniors all that much, so I didn't really know the guy. But really thrilled to hear about the success he's been having with that Ted Lasso character. Everything, and to hear that Ted Lasso is based on Campbell. Wow. So I need to actually take the chance to watch that show in its entirety and see how much he got right. A few Campbellisms I'll share with you right now. So, hey, what's going on? Oh, nothing. Stay out of trouble? Yeah. Who is she? Or who is he? Depending on who's or quit cheating, wants to start smacking.
So I don't have Apple TV, so I've never seen a single episode of Ted Lasso.
I've only seen one clip of Ted Lasso, the Sheffield Wednesday clip. We're playing Sheffield Wednesday? Yeah, Saturday. Oh, we're playing Sheffield Saturday. No, we're playing Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday. So I don't know if you're a big fan of English football at all, but Sheffield Wednesday is an actual team in England. They got their name because they used to be called the Wednesday Football Club, and they originally just played on Wednesdays when those workers had the day off. But they later added the Sheffield part to it because that's where they play in Sheffield, and they're one of the more storied clubs in the history of English football. Not nearly as storied as Manchester United and Liverpool, but still pretty well regarded. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hate to tell you this, man. I'm not a big soccer person. I played the sport when I was a kid. I stunk at it. That's probably the one reason why I'm not a fan of soccer, because I was bad at it.
Right.
My lone memory I have was making a block with my nose when I was goalie. So a very painful memory, one I love to forget. And I've tried a few times to try to convince myself to watch a Sporting KC game. I just can't do it. Minus the penalty kicks, the famous penalty kicks in the 2013 MLS Cup.
Right.
Now that I enjoyed, because I was up at that was the time when I was still working at Union Broadcasting, which of course is where Sports Radio 810 and ESPN Kansas City are at. And I believe I was I think I was doing something, but I remember being in the 810 control room, sitting there watching the penalty kicks, and I was just like, I was amazed of how entertaining that was. I think it came down to 10 penalty kicks, if I remember correctly. And who was the goalie at the time for Sporting KC? I'm trying to remember. Jimmy Nielsen. That's it. And he was so phenomenal at blocking and saving those penalty kicks. And of course, Sporting got a few of those, and it was the ultimate difference. And Sporting won the cup.
Right. So yeah, the last 10 so years, that's when I've really gotten into soccer. In fact, I would say that soccer has become my football replacement on a number of levels, including the local level. I've come to support a local soccer team. They're called Santa Fe Wanderers. They'll be playing in they have a really good record in terms of amateur semi-pro soccer. They've won a lot of trophies and everything, and they're a good bunch of guys too. So they'll play this year in the UPSL and the Midwest Premier League, and look forward to getting to a couple of games this year. That's one thing I would like to see more of in our sports, is more of that community feel. That's I really only get from going to Santa Fe games, and that's that KCK has their own amateur soccer league, the KCK Adult Soccer League, and it is a blast to watch some of those games and these guys playing for love of the game.
Mm-hmm. So I've been out to Sporting a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I went there a couple times when I volunteered at this one. It's a small radio station. It was a Christian radio station. I don't know if it exists anymore, but I volunteered there, and I got to go to some of those games with those people. They're big time Sporting KC soccer people, and they just love going there. And I'll tell you what, Michael, there is not one bad seat at all at Sporting Park at all. I mean, and you find one seat, you're going to get a great view. You're going to get a great game. But can you please lower the prices on food? I mean, what, $8 for popcorn?
Wow.
Popcorn should be like what? $1. I mean, or something like that. I mean, it was ridiculous. I think I remember it was $8. Then, of course, experience of going out to Royals and Chiefs games. I remember exactly one time I went with my dad to the 2004 AFC divisional playoff game against the Colts, against Peyton Manning, who famously picked us apart in that game. Go figure. Of course, that was the same year when the Rams lost to Carolina.
Yeah.
That's last. I know I'm bringing back bad memories of Steve.
That was the last. I think that was the last playoff game for the Rams in St. Louis, actually. So.
Oh, I thought they made it in 04 or 05 or something.
Yeah, they might have, but
I think they sneaked
12
in.
years, no single winning record.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But going back to ridiculous food prices at sporting games, bottle of water was like $10 at Arrowhead one time. But worst of all, they would take off the cap for you instead of doing it yourself, because here's why. They thought the cap was a weapon. It's a stupid round cap. And it's plastic. How in the world is that considered a weapon?
It's considered a weapon if you're stupid enough to throw it. Yeah.
And the same thing happened another time. I went to it was then called Sprint Center. Now it's T-Mobile Center. I went to see K-State play, I believe Washington State men's basketball. Same thing. We try to get bottles of water, and same thing. They take the cap off for you because they think it's a weapon. And I believe it was $10 then too. I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah. And I've been to both venues. You're absolutely right about Sporting Park. Not a bad seat in the house. And I'd say the same thing about Sprint Center too, or T-Mobile. Yeah,
I'll always refer to it as Sprint Center.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's like this whole thing with all these name changes for these teams, like the Redskins and Indians. Come on, I'm always going to refer to them as Indians and Redskins. I don't care.
Yeah. So not
Once
big Commanders or Guardians.
No.
Yeah.
Hideous. The uniforms for the Commanders are horrific. Could you at least gone with a logo of a commander on your helmet instead of that stupid W? I mean, the W is worse than what it was last time when it was Washington football team.
It's practically the same W, just
I know,
stylized a little bit.
Yeah, and it's poorly designed. The uniforms. I mean, did they not learn from the Cleveland Browns to not put name on the front of the jersey? Awful. And then Guardians, they sort of kept the same look. Obviously, with the Indians, of course they changed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But they could at least put the numbers on the bottom of the jersey to make it at least a little more interesting. Because they've gone with some kind of striping on around the V-neck a little bit. I mean, do something. I mean, I'd rather go back to the days of which is famous now for the movie Major League. Go back to those uniforms, or go back to the 90s. I mean, that was a great look there for the Indians. I loved that look. You know, the days of Jim Thome and Kenny Lofton and Manny Ramirez and Albert Bell.
Yeah.
Oh, do you ever see any possibility of those names ever coming back?
Nope.
Does our country ever take a pause for the cause and kind of reflect itself and kind of, say, hey, we were kind of stupid in thinking all these names are terrible? I hope so, but I think you're right. I don't see them ever coming back either.
Yeah. And when you worked in sports, did you know Frank Bull at all?
Absolutely. One heck of a guy.
Yeah. He went to my dad's high school.
He did, really?
Yeah. He was 2 years ahead of my dad, Central Catholic High School in Pittsburgh.
He lives out in Spring Hill, Kansas, not too far from where I live.
Cool.
I found that out, probably a few months back. It was mentioned on the radio. He was talking about something to where he mentioned about Spring Hill. I'm like, oh, that's pretty close to where I live. So,
yeah.
And of course, he played at Villanova.
I didn't know where he went to college. I knew he was at Central Catholic for high school. Even then they were calling him Pudgy.
Yes. Seren Petro. I know Kevin Keatsman, who used to be there. Thank goodness he's not there anymore, because that's what he did. Bad mouthing Andy Reid the way he did. I'm not gonna go into those details. There's no need for it. But yes, I've heard the name Pudgy several times as the nickname for Frank Bull. Super nice guy. But Frank Bull actually, yes, he did play at Villanova. He played football back in the day. I know it's hard to believe that Villanova has a football team, and he even did back then. He also coached as well.
Did not know that either. So
he did before he got into broadcasting. He used to, for a long time, worked at Fox 4.
Yeah,
and that's where he hired Kevin Keatsman at Channel 4. And that's where Kevin got started. And of course, Todd Lebo, who works there too at 810. That's how they all met there at Channel 4. So it's quite a connection. Of course, one of my all-time greats or favorites, Jack Harry, who I got to meet too, who I just adore. I mean, the dude's a legend. I got to have Jack on my show a couple times, which was an absolute treat. Doesn't get any better than having a legend like him around these parts on your radio show.
Sure.
I had several people on. I had Seren Petro. I've had Curtis Siebold, his sidekick, on the program. I tried getting Frank on, but it never worked out. I never could ever talk to him in
Mhm.
order to get him on there. And then of course COVID happened and
Right.
my show got kicked out, and I was done there. I don't know if I'm ever going back there. I would love to, but
Mhm.
I may have to look elsewhere and try to get back to doing what I was doing before because I absolutely love it.
Yeah. 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 Definitely get back to podcasting because I know you've done some podcasting and
I tried that a while back, doing it from my house and everything. I just didn't like the quality of it, and I don't know, at the time I just didn't really sound very good when I was doing it, so I just kind of stopped doing it. But I'd rather be doing it, for an actual radio show and not just doing it for, like kind of like what you're doing. I mean,
Sure.
I don't mind doing actual podcasting, but I'd rather be doing it for a radio show and do it for a bigger cause or a bigger
Mhm.
reason.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Absolutely. And of course, Central Catholic High School. Now, on that train of thought, some other famous alumni from that school include one Dan Marino
Oh wow.
and one Mark Bolger.
Mm-hmm. Mark
Yeah,
Bolger.
another St. Louis Ram there.
What college did Bolger go to? I'm trying to
West
remember.
Virginia.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, West Virginia.
And let's see, I think the actor Zachary
Which-
Quinto is a Central Catholic guy, and
Who's that? Who's that
Zachary
again?
Quinto. So he played. I think he's probably best known for playing Spock in JJ Trek.
Mm.
And
Okay.
the guy, the former CEO of Costco, who came up with their $1.50 hot dog combo thing, was a Central Catholic guy as well. So, and
Yeah, Frank Bull is pretty well known and quite funny when he laughs too. When he's got the high pitched laugh going. When he's on with Seren every Wednesday at I believe 4:00. So maybe tomorrow you can maybe tune in if you have time. Tune in when Frank's on because if Seren is talking about some really hilarious, he'll get Frank going, and Frank's laugh makes you laugh even harder because it's that high pitch and it's so noticeable. And I crack up every time when those two are going, when Seren's got a funny story going and something about his life and he's just talking about it, and in the way he's describing it just makes Frank laugh so hard sometimes. And you can hear Frank trying to catch his breath in the background going oh, and it's just it's hilarious. So but no, good people at UB, and I definitely miss it, and I really wish I was still doing radioactive sports. That was the name of my show, just for those who had no idea that I was even involved in doing a sports radio show. I started doing that when I was at JUCO, when there used to be ECAV radio, which no longer exists. Exists. There we go. Excuse me. Ben Mesner, who you probably remember, he may still be teaching up there at JUCO, but he does production work at Union Broadcasting, and he's the reason why I got involved in ATN because I took an internship through him. But he told me a while back, a long time ago, that ECAP radio, maybe a year or two ago, stopped doing its thing.
Wow.
Because one, I think it was poorly managed. I think, at least I thought it was when I was doing it. I mean, it was kind of jumbled and kind of messed around with, and they had multiple different station managers. No one was really consistent, and I only got paid, I think, half of a semester. I did a fresh show every day compared to everybody else who was there doing a show where they would tape one that would go on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then another that would go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Me, being a guy that wants to give out fresh content every day, I did a fresh show every day. either from here or when I was when I needed to go to class, and then had time to stop by in the studio and knock out a show or two.
Yep.
I pop out a show every day, and it was a lot of fun. I just wish I had more respect. I didn't get the kind of respect I deserved because I worked my tail off.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I moved over to A10 in 2013. I pitched my interest and my want of wanting to do a show around 2016, and that's where I really took off. I did 200 shows exactly. That's where it all stopped when COVID took place, and it was very, very hard for me to really gather that in my mind and really accept the fact that I was done. I was very mad, and I just couldn't understand why it was happening. But I understood, what they were trying to do. They didn't want COVID to really spread, throughout the whole entire building. So some people had to go, and well, I was one of them. So it is what it is.
Yep, it is what it is, and that's sad to hear about ECAF closing, and of course I've had another ECAF person, Mr. Bill Butts, whom we both know.
Yes, Bill Butts.
Yep.
One of the great voices around these parts. He's really gone to better places. He's doing a lot of different voice act, doing a lot of voice acting and different a lot of, I think they're mostly, I think, cartoons. I think he's
he's mostly doing anime voices. Yes.
But I remember he had his own show. I forget what the name of it was, but he's definitely talented, and he was a joy to be around a lot of times. Just that voice, you hear it, and you'd be amazed right off the bat.
Yeah,
good man. Good man. Good man.
Yeah, absolutely. Himself a sports fan, because I remember him wearing that Wolfsburg shirt all the time. Yeah. All right. Well, we're right along, and I assume you have a lot to do today. I know I do. So we'll go on. And then, hey, thanks for being on the podcast, and again, congratulations on winning the tournament pool. So.
Yep. Still shocked. And hey, Michael, thanks a lot, man. It was a great time. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully we'll do it again, maybe sometime. Maybe next year I'll win. I'll win it again, and we'll be back on it.
Yeah, never know.
Yep, never know.
All right.
Good to see you, man.
You too.
This podcast is Uncalled For is hosted, produced and edited by Mike Chernevsky. Opening music is Cool Hard Facts by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The outro music for this episode is Late Night Radio by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting platform. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/uncalledforpodcast, and check out our blog with show notes at uncalledfor.home.blog. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.